I know. All right. Hey, everybody, Yang Gang, and everybody else that's watching. Welcome to another edition of Melanated Council of Yang, for short, McCoy. We got L, we got Toby here, and we are going to be discussing something huge, something big, something very important, and it's about your local elections, given the breakdown of what's going on. So that way, last push before you get slammed and bombarded with other political ads, mail flyers, and whatever else you see on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. We're going to give you that one solid push to kind of like get you guys thinking about what's going on, what's really at stake, and what you can do to provide a better future for the next few generations to come after us. Okay? So, without further ado, let's go ask this question here. How many of you guys have already voted so far? Okay, L voted. Toby, how about you?
I'm about to go drop this thing off tomorrow. So apparently I'm behind. What do you say, Ronald?
Okay. So in other words, Toby, he voted. He just hasn't made it official yet. So, okay, got you. I know I voted. I know here in Michigan we did the early vote, like kind of towards the end of September, the first part of November. We started our early votes, and then we also had got our mail-in ballots roughly around about that same time. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and get it done out the way. So, yes, that's another thing we're going to talk about today, too, as well. So, everybody's pretty much voted out the way. Let's start with this. How did you guys feel voting as far as like mail-in ballots and then voting at the polls? How was it kind of different? How was it same? Share your thoughts.
So, for years I've been doing early voting in person, and I've been going to like the same place to vote early, for the past like 5 years or so. And prior to this time, like if early voting, it could be like on a Saturday, it could be on like any day, anytime early voting, it's like nobody's in there. It's like a couple of people. There was a time when like I put some clothes on to wash, and like the washer had like 58 minutes for like a regular wash. I went and voted. Then I went to Publix to pick up some things. Then I went to Publix liquor store next door to pick up some more things. And then I came home, and right when I came home, that's when the jingle was going off saying that my washer and everything was done. So I was able to do all of that. This time, the line, like there was actually a line. It wasn't a long line. I went Friday around like 1 p.m. or so. So I guess it was like lunchtime. Yeah, there was a line. It was like 3 people in front of me. It went fast, but like all the little boothy things, like they were pretty much filled. Like I had to wait, and it was a little bit uncomfortable, I guess, because like the guy next to me had like his mask only over his mouth, his nose was exposed, and he was like coughing. I was like, oh, beautiful. So I was just like, I kind of already knew what I wanted to do for the most part. I wish I reviewed my stuff a little bit more, because like for my city there were like 18 amendments. I was like, shit. But yeah, like for majority of everything, I reviewed it and I kind of knew what I wanted at the same time. So like it wasn't totally like unknown to me, like the ballot. So that was good. I definitely felt more confident than prior, times I voted where I'm just like, it's like, I don't know what any of this means. This time around, I was like, I sort of know what these things mean. But yeah, it was my first time seeing a line like for early voting, and it was my first time seeing so many people. But yeah.
Nice. Toby, how about for you?
Yeah, so I actually have because I got the ballot in the mail. Massachusetts actually came pretty late relatively. And I requested it for our state primary back in September 1st. So this wasn't even like I requested it late. Like I had this thing requested in August because you can mark both boxes for the state primary and the general. So I was like, did I miss this thing? Where the heck is this ballot? And it didn't come until I want to say 2 weeks ago or maybe 3 weeks ago. But by the time it came, other states had already started voting, which is why I was getting a little anxious because all these states were like early voting weeks ago. Like when we did the other episode about voting like 2 weeks ago, I believe that was the day of registration finishing for some states, and some states had already started voting. And I was like, well, crap, Massachusetts, what are you doing? So what happened was I got the ballot. I just didn't really get a lot of time to look at it immediately. I honestly didn't take a good look at it for real until this past weekend. So early voting started last Monday. So we basically are doing it for 2 weeks. It'll end this Friday. And then, of course, you can either drop it off whenever you want, like in the mail, or you have to, I guess Monday, there's not really anything that you can do besides, well, at Monday, it's kind of late, right, to try to mail it. But I was like, okay, let me try to like at least get it done this week. So I took a look at it. I guess I should say that I didn't formally mark it, but I already know what I'm marking. I just needed to look a bit more at the other options. We only have 2 questions, which I actually was just posting about earlier today in my Facebook page. There's so much that happened in like 24, 36 hours that is actually kind of crazy. So without going into all the details yet, there's 2 questions. And, I know what I'm going to do for those. Plus, then you have all the down ballot races. There aren't that many, honestly. We have 1 Senate seat. We have, obviously, our representative. And then you have like a few state seats. You have like a state Senate seat that is unopposed, and basically a state rep who they're trying to flip. It's actually a woman in our district who's running as a Democrat to flip it. And that's basically just my town. Like literally that state house seat is literally my town. Like I don't think that there's anything else in that seat basically represents. So it's kind of interesting that like it's very hyper local with some of what's on this ballot. I didn't see anything for like school board or anything like that, but I saw some other things that were also unopposed. So there's really only 1 race. I guess you have the Congress and the Senate race, which are federal representatives, but state races. But I would say there's only like 1 local legislative race that actually there's a chance to really like flip. Everything else is unopposed. So yeah, that would be interesting. I just have to drop it off. The rules for Massachusetts, you can either like stand in line for early voting, which I could do if I wanted to like take a day off, but I can also mail it. And what I wanted to do personally was to actually go to the election center and drop it off in person to like the actual.
I think that's what you should do. You should drop it off in person.
Yeah. And the nice little segue. I don't want to be the harbinger of conspiracy theories and fears, but literally like there was a news article yesterday that someone set a drop box on fire in Boston in the Episcopal Copley Square. And it was somewhere between Saturday like 2 p.m. and Sunday at like 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. 2 a.m. Either way, it was like a 12-hour window, and they were able to extinguish it by pouring the water. So I think they rescued like 87 ballots out of 122, which that's actually not terrible. But so the water destroyed some ballots, the fire destroyed some ballots, and they were trying to urge people, if you voted between these times and you haven't gotten the automatic tracker, like you haven't gotten the automatic verification link or whatever, then you should request a new one. Otherwise, they're going to try to hand mark the ballot as best as they can for the damaged ballots. So I'm just like, what kind of foolishness is this? And I'm just like, I'm going to just drive and give it to a human being because people are playing games in this election and I'm not really here for it. So
I know. What's weird is it seems like one side is like telling people, like everyone to vote ever. Then another side is like, let me destroy ballots and people from voting. It's like, I don't know, it makes no sense. It's like, don't you want people to vote?
Right. And you would think that with what's going on, obviously you want people to vote. But then again, you made a very good point, El, where you got the one side saying, well, we want you to vote, but we don't want you to vote at the same time. Like we're going to destroy your votes to make sure you don't vote, but we're still urging you to vote. So it's like that kind of defeats the purpose, you know. And with my experience, what we've done, and especially when it came to like the mail-in ballots, we vote. We first look at the ballot, see what's going on. Then we get a chance to kind of look at the candidates, see who's on there, see who's running, see what they're all about, make our ballot, mark our ballot, seal it up, drive to, like Toby said, to the polling office and drop it off there. There's probably maybe a couple times that we've dropped them off at like a box outside, but it was kind of still secure. But even still, it's like that weird feeling of, man, I hope nobody tampers with this box and messes with these ballots and this, that, third. So moving back to Michigan, and coincidentally, the drop-off box is actually inside of town hall. So if anybody was going to destroy it, it will have to be literally an inside job to get it done. But then again, it's like a bunch of cameras surrounding it, so it's like there's no point. Then even if you did destroy it, the police office is down the hall, so it's like you're going to get caught one way or another. But the early voting for us here, it's been smooth. It's been good. Not a whole lot of weirdness going on, other than people taking yard signs and throwing them all over the place, which is like a big oof. Like, why would you do that? But even still, it's just knowing who to vote for, educating yourself on who to vote for, and basically get that one push, that one big push into election day. And I don't know if you guys saw the latest episode of Yang Speaks, but the guy that's running for Fred Umpton's seat for Michigan 6th District, John Holy, he was on there. And so he's currently our state rep. The lady that's running to replace him, her name is Amy East. And if you guys haven't noticed, she's 7 generations in the area. So her and her family's been here for 7 generations. Mm-hmm. And the farm that she's growing up on, that's been in the family for that long as well. So that's the reason why she's running, is because of the fact that she understands that not only do we have to worry about Trump in office, but we also have to worry about the way how our environment, how our bridges, the national landmarks are, how those are actually being affected and how they're being damaged. And so she's like, that's more of a reason why, because we got to preserve these stuff. Like a lot of people, like myself, we like to go fishing. I want to go hunting. Got to work up the courage to do that one, but that's the one thing I want to do. And Michigan is prime for it. And so it's like, we got all these natural resources here. Let's do the best that we can to protect them and keep them going on, And so that's one of the reasons why I'm like, yeah, I'm going to support you. I'm going to campaign for you. I know we talked about UBI with each other a lot. It's like, if we could get that pushed in on a state level, great. I'm like, bet. Let's do it. Let's get this done, because a lot of people, they're hurting right now. And then especially with the pandemic, I know here in Michigan, the governor already said that if trends keep going up the way how they are, not only is she going to shut everything down and dial back, but we're looking at being shut down for 2 months.
What, like the whole state or your area?
No, the whole state. The whole state is looking at getting shut down for 2 months. That's how bad the cases are in Michigan right now, where it's like she's keeping an eye on it, she's monitoring it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if we're getting shut down for 2 months, then is the shutdown period going to happen before or after election? And if so, then people should have really took advantage of doing the mail-in ballots voting early, so they're not waiting at the last minute to do their votes and then have to worry about, oh my gosh, I won't be able to go vote. And this is that and the third. It's like, no, go do what you got to do. Go vote. Which brings me to point 2. Has anybody used Vote 411?
I did.
Recently?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. No, like it's definitely been helpful. I think I've heard it from you. I think you were the first one to tell me about this, Ron. So thank you.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's been super helpful. Like, I like how you can like compare, like the candidates side by side. That was very helpful in the primaries, because like you have all these competitors, and it's like I have no idea who these people are, and I'm in a very Democratic county. And so whoever wins the Democratic primary is like more than likely going to win the position, in November. People are just going to vote Democratic down the line. I mean, that's even what I did, but I knew everybody. But it did help. There was also some positions that like I didn't know about or hear about until this election, this November election. Like there was, let me actually have it up here. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like some like a position for like environment. It was like an environmental position. Like I don't see the exact name here, but it was anyway. Yeah, it was a position for like an environmental. Oh, Broward Conservative and Development. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Conservation. What am I saying? Broward Conservation and Development. And so I mean, I didn't see any primaries for that. Back in whenever the hell it was, August. Sometime before this live stream, the primary were. So
speaking about that, yeah.
So it was just interesting just to see like the two candidates. So like I read about the candidates a bit, and yeah, like it was just kind of interesting. I was just like, oh, like there's like these positions here, and like there was also like, oh, should this person retain, like this judicial person retain their seat? And I was just like, oh, okay, that's like now that like I have a better idea of like who does what, like it kind of made sense. Like there was a question, at least in my city, about like term limits for, I think, commissioners or something. So I was like, hell yeah. Like who knows how long they've just been, they're just riding, like I feel like everybody, I mean, I don't know about every single city in my county, like what exactly they do, like how many times people have been in like these positions, but like I'm all for term limits for like everything. It's like, if you serve, more than 2 terms, 4 terms, what have you, just like let it go. Like,
right.
Everything needs to come to an end.
Gotcha. Toby, how about you? Did you use Vote 401?
I heard of it. So you mentioned it before. Another friend of mine did. I did, I think, get on the website some point in the summer. So some point, especially after like all the, protests, and people were like really looking at like, okay, what are positions that people can influence, especially when it came to like district attorney, judges, and all that stuff for the criminal justice system. So I did look at Vote 411, but it's, from what I could tell, it looked a little outdated. I may have misinterpreted it, because I remember seeing like there was some area to vote at, which was not where I voted for the presidential primary back in March, and which also had like other local offices. So I was like, this is off, because the location is off. It doesn't seem to be up to date. But I actually think that the election day offices are at these different elementary schools, depending on your precinct in the town. So when I saw it, I was like, this is not this is garbage, but I was like, this is not correct. I don't want to trust this. So I ended up just like deciding to use my ballot. Like I didn't get all the fancy comparisons really. Like I may have looked at some of that for the September 1st primary, but honestly, I just kind of did my own little research. But I think I will try to use it more in the future and then try to find like other tools that help compare. Really for the primary mostly, because the idea is to be as involved in primaries to try to influence in a certain direction. Because the general election is what it is for a lot of places. Now, I mean, you're in the swing state, both of you actually, but Massachusetts, I know you feel it very heavily. I'm just here in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is going to do it. But I mean, the local elections are very important still, yeah. So I'm gonna see what that 411, how it works in the future. And what other tools are out there. A lot of social media sites were very active and like check your registration, check XYZ. I'm not sure how many of them. I think Snapchat had an option where you could like click something and it would say like mark a ballot, like a sample ballot in your area. So I think some of these social media tools are trying to like also not just show you where to vote, but also what it even looks like, and maybe have something interactive. So I'm glad that different websites are like trying to get more engagement with that. Some people have never seen a ballot; they don't know like how to mark it. I mean, it sounds dumb, but like it's something. It's just like you see this and you're like, I don't even know like completely how this thing works. You have multiple layers. You have to send it in a certain way. Not to mention on the back of the ballot, you often have questions depending on how long these things are. Questions and ballot measures or whatever. So.
Precisely. Yeah, you're right. And what a lot of people tend to fail to realize, and I'm glad that she brought this up, is because a lot of these positions, they really do go unopposed, and especially if we're like, okay, we want progressive people to go and run for offices and whatnot, but they're like, we're so worried about all the big ones running for governor, for representative of the U.S., Senate seats, the state seats, the state senates, and everything else. But you also got to think about, well, you also have to look at your state judiciary too as well, your state Supreme Courts, your district courts, those judges, those sheriffs. You got all these little offices that typically go run unopposed. And so what I did was I got Vote 401 up, and I'm about to pretty much do it for my area just to kind of give everybody a snapshot of what I'm dealing with, and also just to kind of bring awareness, because the area, the county that I live in is very Republican. And if the representative Amy East, if she could win and actually capitalize on this election cycle, that's going to be huge, because there really hasn't been a Democrat that ran in this area that actually won. Just to kind of paint the picture, most seats are held by Republicans, and they've been there for who knows how long. But at the end of the day, it is due to the fact that the Republican opponent that she's facing, he's not even from the area. He's actually from 2 cities north, probably 3 cities north. Just to kind of paint the picture, he lost the election up there, moved down here to try to win this election just so he get his foot in the door. Even though, yes, he has worked on a campaign for one of the Republicans that sits in the state House Representatives as of right now. So it's like, dude, what are you trying to bring new to my area when you don't even know nothing about my area? The only thing you probably know is that, it's a bunch of Republicans that live here. True. But at the same time, a lot of these Republicans that live here, a lot of them are farmers, believe it or not. A lot of them are farmers. A lot of them own mom and pop shops, and a lot of them are just average workers. And so for you to kind of come in and steal the show and whatnot, it's like, nah, it's not happening. It's not happening. So I was very grateful and honored to work on the Amy East campaign as a volunteer and kind of help her with the door knocks and everything else. But it was pretty much what I saw on Vote 411 that basically solidified why I actually wanted to vote for her, because she's an archaeologist. She's traveled all over the world. And she's like, I understand what brings cultures together. I understand what brings people together. And what I want to do is I want to bring the people together here in this district to the state house to understand their needs, bring that information back, help educate them what's going on, so that way they have a say-so as far as, should I vote for this because it's going to help, or should I not vote for this because it may hurt us? And so she's done a lot of research, and it just pretty much comes down to the wire of what's going on, how to go about it. So basically that's where my head is at. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Just for our viewers to understand what's going on. Share. Come here.
Actually, I've thought of this too. I was like, it would be good to share something at some point.
Yeah.
Cause I know that's always popular, you know. Recursion.
Oh, that's like Inception.
Inception, yes.
Yes. So if everybody can see, this is, of course, vote for. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is vote 401, and I'm gonna pretty much do my address or some sort.
Or something.
Yeah.
Because
I'm gonna do this one.
we are Strategy Streaming Live.
Let's see. And you guys can do this. And if you guys are watching, you guys can do this too for your own city, state, and whatnot. And it literally will pull up everything that is going on in your area. So you're not just sitting around wondering about, oh, who should I vote for, or should I listen to the news? No, you don't got to do all of that. All you got to do is really do what you got to do. So, of course, here it gives you, Tuesdays for the next general election, the registration dates, the vote by mail, in person. And so with the in-person thing, like the way what Michigan did is like you could do same day registration. So the same day you registered, the same day that you could vote, which is cool. And so go here, explore now, see what's on the ballot. And I like the way how Vote 401 did Michigan's. And I don't know if it's the same for anybody else's, but what they did was somewhere on here they've had an actual ballot, what it looks like, what's going to be on there. But we're going to do here, show my races. Come on. Show me the races. You're not going to do that to me. Okay.
It's not like highlighted.
No, it's going to be dumb. Okay. Michigan. And then this one. Okay. Michigan House District 6. That's not who I want. I'm sorry, you guys. This is very... Okay, enter. Okay, I'm just going ahead and do it this way. 210. No, there we go. Okay, so this is pretty much what's going to show up here. So you got, of course, you got your U.S. president, you got your Senate, Michigan House District. So these are all the people that are running. This guy here, Fred Upton, he's been the representative for the state of Michigan for the longest, has gotten 0 done. I repeat, he's been in there for the longest, got 0 done. John Holy, I know, Toby, you've probably heard of him. Elle, you probably heard of him. But John Holy, he's the guy that's actually running for his seat. and he's currently our House representative in the state of Michigan. And so he has a really good chance of upsetting Fred Upton and actually taking his seat. That's what we're hoping for. And so, of course, you can click on everybody and see what they're voting for, see what their websites are, Twitter, Facebook, website, and it basically just go down the list of the policies, how he views things, and basically get a feel of the candidate before you go and vote. Then we go to the next one. This is the one I was talking about, the more so crucial one. So this is the lady that I'm voting for here, Amy East. And as you can tell, these are all the things on the left-hand side. That's her website. That's where you get in contact with on Facebook, her Twitter, there, what she's doing. And this is all of the things that she has answered as far as what she wants to bring to the table to the state of Michigan. Her opponent, Steve Carr, as you can tell, all blanks. All blanks.
Wait, is that something to do with her specifically, or
no? And I kind of did a what did I do? I kind of did like a side swipe as far as saying, okay, let me kind of get a idea. So another good website to you is Ballotpedia.com, I think.
Yeah, Ballotpedia is good.
That's another good one, just kind of get a side-by-side comparison. And right out the gate, it mirrored what I found on Vote 411 with Ballotpedia. And again, hardly any of the Republicans that are running for the 59th district of Michigan had any responses. I think maybe one or two people had responses who I thought could have been like really good contenders. One guy, his name is Jack Coleman. He was a retired Navy. He retired from the U.S. Navy, and he brought up the idea of term limits as a Republican. I'm like, that's major, because he's probably like one of the few Republicans that has openly said anything about term limits. But also he also made mention that a lot of our veterans, because of the fact that they're coming home, that they actually need mental health treatment for PTSD. And so she was a big pusher of making sure that the county has services dedicated for mental health and not just throw them in a loony bin without diagnosing them, but trying to help them out. So he was a huge advocate for that. And then there was another one for he mentioned for drugs. Like, we got he said a lot of the county prisons is with people that are on drugs. So like, rather than throw them in jail, let's build facilities to kind of get them help. So rather than build this pipeline from school to prison, let's cut that pipeline out. Let's do something to help them out. And when I read about him, I'm like, ooh, if he wins the Republican primary, he could be some trouble, because of the fact a lot of the stuff that he's for, a lot of progressives want.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, he's Republican, but a lot of progressives, they like that idea. They like that idea of, we need mental health. We need to stop the school to prison pipeline, that we have to help people that are on drugs get off drugs and make sure they get help. Like, he was all for that. And I let her know that. Amy, mind you, I let her know that. And she's like, and I told her, like, that's a big problem. And she's like, well, no, not really. No. I was like, no, think about what I'm saying. He's a Republican that has a bunch of progressive ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the Democrats in our area, they identify as progressives. What's not to say that just based off of his platform alone, he could sway those votes that could have gone towards you. She thought about it. She's like, I see your point. And so we had conversation. We talked. Unfortunately, he didn't win, but I'm hoping that he's one of those few Republicans that can actually vote for her because of the fact that that is so crucial in our area, because a lot of people, they realize that we have a huge drug problem, that the majority of the cities here is laid with drugs. You won't see it out in the open, but you could kind of tell. And so that's a huge issue. And so that's the one thing she wants to bring to the state. Like, hey, we need help with homelessness. We need help with getting people off drugs. We need help with people finding places to get help, to receive help. That we need to get people out of jail that have drug-related offenses that are non-violent, get them help so they can get off of drugs. Like, come on, let's do it. Let's make this thing happen. And so, again, that's why I voted for her. That's why I supported her, because of the fact of her ideas and what she wants to do. And you guys, if you're watching, again, Vote 411 is a good research tool. Ballotpedia is a good research tool. I already have the link for Vote 411 down in the description box. Later on, I will also put the Ballotpedia. I think that's what it is. I'll put that description. I will put that link down in the description, so you have between this week and next week to do your research, see who you're voting for, and just vote. Don't worry about what mainstream media has to say. Vote. If you already have your mail-in ballots, fill that bad boy out. Turn it in. Don't put it in the mailbox and think it's going to get there. No, you go to your local polling station, your Secretary of State, your county clerk. Go to your county clerk's office.
Supervisor of elections.
Huh?
Supervisor of elections.
Yes. Like, do what you got to do to vote, because your vote matters. And if we all can agree that 4 more years of Trump is a no-go, then make that known. Like, do what you got to do. Yes, of course, the candidates that we got, they're not the best in the whole world. We understand that. But at the same time, if we say we don't want 4 more years of Trump, then let's make it happen. That's my rant. Anybody else has a comment?
Man, I couldn't remember. I guess especially if you're registered. Well, you can only vote if you're registered, but like if you're registered, definitely vote. I definitely wanted to I guess give a shout out to Snoop Dogg and Shaq and Tyler, the Creator. Like, it was like their first times voting, Snoop Dogg and Shaq more so, especially because they're like a lot older. And the fact that they've just never voted before until this election, goes to show that that's pretty awesome. I guess they're seeing the I guess they're seeing what their vote, how their vote matters, because I remember, I think around the beginning of this year, P. Diddy was saying, or Diddy, however you know him, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, he said I guess for especially Black America to hold our vote. And there's always which was weird because he was doing vote or die a couple of years ago, but whatever. But there is there's never any sort of revolutionary and apathy or neglect and ignorance. How I see it is we're all on this boat. It's going to go in some direction. Just because you're not rowing doesn't mean you're not on this boat. It doesn't mean you're just exempt from everything that's going on. So you might as well, pick up a paddle and start rowing in the direction that you feel is best. Because if you really can't, feel any sort of way to either side, if you think both sides are just mirror identical images of each other, if you think the people who, you know, who like put a fire, you know, the type of people who inspire or evoke, you know, either whether it's like inspiration or aggression, anger, or even both. Sometimes people see aggression, like, you know, they use their inspiration as a form of aggression, you know, just to get some sort of, you know, just to get like their agenda or their beliefs in that order, and, you know, in that way, then I don't know, if you see both sides as like the exact same, then like I don't know what to tell you. I guess there's nothing I can say. But if you feel one way, you know, at least go in that direction, because it's gonna go in either direction. Like I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, because, you know, it's not gonna go to the lady Jorgensen, I think is her name, Jorgensen.
Joe Jorgensen, yeah.
Yeah, it was like German. It's unfortunately not going to go to her. She's not going to win. I understand that you may want to, like, you know, cast like a protest vote to prove a point, but I don't know what point you're making, to be quite honest. I totally forgot. I think I used to know, like now I don't at this point. I just don't know. Like I feel bad. Like I understand that there's a point. I just don't know it. It just doesn't compute to me. But you know, like, so it's gonna go one way or the other. So like, at least move it in a direction that you feel is forward, and don't just vote for yourself. Vote for your friends, vote for your family, vote for the younger ones who can't vote, your children who can't vote, your nieces, your nephews, you know, your cousins' kids, your friends' kids, you know, your immigrant parents who probably don't have your family members who, you know, who may be immigrants. Yeah. So yeah, it's not just about you. Or even like your immigrant friends. You probably have them you don't even know. You know, like you'd be surprised by some people who don't even have their citizenship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Ray.
Yeah. And Duran, right? I was gonna actually say, yeah, too, the point that I think someone wanted to prove with third party votes were if they get 5% or so, they get more funding. Oh, boom. Okay, Fred. Perfect. I haven't been looking at the comments. So
that's okay. I got it.
Yeah, you got it. So yeah, I was gonna say it gets you, they get more funding and they might have a chance to actually make it onto a debate stage in the future. But this time third parties are very much absent in the equation compared to 2016, where like people knew who Gary Johnson was, people knew what he said about Aleppo. He literally stuck his tongue out in an interview saying, I could be on the debate stage just sticking my tongue out, like, I'm not about to do it, but like this. And then people knew these things because like everyone just had to look at another option. People knew Jill Stein to some degree, a lot of controversy there as well. Right, but now it's like people don't know Howie Green's the freaking nominee of the Green Party. And like, even there, from what I've heard, there was contention with people not really wanting him on it. So the point is, it kind of is what it is with the two parties. Obviously, we did our part to have a different nominee for the Democratic Party, very obviously. So
yeah,
my hands are clean.
Right, it's true, you know.
Agree.
Because I was like, I know what's about to happen if, I mean, Biden's doing, from what the polls say, fine. And there's less, there are people who are like completely, you know, clutching the pearls and they're just like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's the greater of two evils. But I think a lot of people, I mean, Fred, you know, he's publicly said it too on his Twitter. Like a lot of people who were conservative, who were Republican, who are whoever, are kind of like sucking it up, voting for Biden. I mean, there are people who just can't have it, you know, like Mbaku, like, we will not have it. Or like, there's people who I cannot have it and I will not vote for either. But like, it is what it is, and we're gonna push things forward. So what I know on my ballot, I was gonna try to look at my 411. I mean, I might not pull it up all the way, but like my ballot, because what I wanted to do too was if you can encourage people to, what was that?
Go for it. No. You talk. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something on my end. Thank you, Toby. You
Okay, gotcha.
You just remind me of one of the points. Thank you.
Okay, good. Gotcha. For our Massachusetts, like I said, it's a much bluer state, so kind of, there's not as much consternation on the top of the ticket, but there is some other opportunities. One, for the questions. There's only 2 questions, so they're pretty quick to go over. But also for some of the other seats. I mean, our Senate seat, I think, is pretty safe. We had an incumbent who actually was running as a progressive outsider versus a challenger who did not win. Poor Joe Kennedy, losing even with his Kennedy dynasty name. Anyway, so we have Senator Ed Markey, who is pretty progressive. You may have heard of the Green New Deal. He co-sponsored that with AOC. He also co-sponsored the People for the Money Act, Money for the People Act, or whatever it was that Senator Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and him were going to do for $2,000 a month, basically cash relief throughout the pandemic, and I think retroactive. So Senator Markey has been like kind of a more recent big name with progressive policies, and there's someone running against him, but I don't think that's going to come to anything. And then you have my representative who, Seth Moulton, people might know of him. He ran for president, but he didn't make any of the debate stages. He was a Marine, and he was, yes, Amara. Yes. And yeah, you're in Massachusetts too. So,
no, she's not.
Or no, was. Yeah, because I was thinking of her Twitter. No, she's not currently, but I remember we talked before about that. But yeah, so in Mass, we have ranked choice voting, which, of course, if people following the campaign and everything and following sort of democracy reform, it's a huge step up from our crappy voting system where you just give the one person that you want, and then whoever gets the most votes win. You don't even need a majority, right? Plurality wins, even if you get like 33% of the vote. So ranked choice voting will let you rank candidate A or candidate, the one you want the best. Yes. There we go. Might be, but yeah. So, actually, yeah, and I remember that too. There was a whole story about the Democrats basically committing voter suppression by getting the Green Party removed from the ballots, which is great considering they're always the party that talks about, voter suppression. But that is a very different story. Do as I say, not as I do type stuff. But it is what it is. You hate to see it.
Wow.
No matter who, though, right? Oh, Lord. So, anyways, I mean, clearly, like, I've promoted a lot of candidates who are more blue, but I have issues with hypocrisy wherever I see it, whether it's in the Democrats or the Republicans. But hopefully 2022, 2024, we get to see some fresh blood and people who don't, do things that are kind of trifling. But anyway, so back to the ballot. I want to say Seth Moulton is running. He's probably going to win. He's been in there for a while. He actually ran for the Speaker of the House against Nancy Pelosi a few times. So he's gotten some hate for that, but also some people who respected him for that. He's going to win. I mean, that's whatever. And then the most interesting seat that we have is actually the State House. We have one person, basically my town, Billerica, Massachusetts. Really, our state seat is that entire town, and it's a Republican right now who's in the seat. I forgot the guy's name, Marco Lombardo, I think, and Teresa English, who's a teacher, and she actually served. I'm trying to remember where in the armed forces as something. She served. She's gotten a lot of endorsements from veteran groups, from like the Sunrise Movement, I think, from all these different like definitely teachers federation type groups. So just a lot of like grassroots, working class, also like a lot of people who, pro union, all that good stuff. And she's been more like, I think she's been pro cash relief for the pandemic. So definitely, kind of good policies and gotten some good support. And my town is not like huge, and most people I know in Massachusetts don't live where I live. So I haven't been able to really tell many people, but I do know people who live in, like, I know a few other Yang Gang type people in Massachusetts, in Billerica in particular, who were voting for her. So I think she's good. And besides that, ranked choice voting is big, like I mentioned. That will be a question. And then the number one question, though, question one, this one was very interesting. And I saw an article about it literally today. Apparently, there's a question where automotor, basically, it has to do with car data privacy, like being able to make the data that we transmit from vehicles public and putting it into a public database. And voting yes would basically say, yes, we want this, and gives people more choice. It seems to be pretty like good for independent repair stores, giving more power to the people, that kind of thing, and taking away the monopoly of the data that's being held by the big makers like Honda, Toyota, and the others. But oh man, so I saw some arguments on the contrary where they were saying, if you vote, I haven't seen the ads, but apparently there have been some fear-mongering ads where they basically said like stalkers, sexual abusers, predators, and others will basically hack these databases and like find people. And they apparently had these dramatic scenes where women were in like parking garages, and there would be like an ominous figure, and it would be like, this is what will happen to you if you vote yes on one. And I'm like, oh my goodness. That just makes me want to. I was like, is this what we're really doing? This is just full out fearmongering. Is that what we're doing right now? I'm a little like, I think I'll vote yes on that one. So like I said, I didn't fill out the ballot, but just based off of the choices, there aren't many. Like I kind of know, and I think it's a good measure. I mean, they basically the article I read was kind of funny because it said that these big automakers are dumping these millions into like attack ads on this ballot measure, because basically the data that they are transmitting is too sensitive, could be hacked, and people could basically either, block updates to your vehicle, stalk you and harass you. But then it's like, you're kind of indicting yourself. Like at that point, if you guys are like basically carrying this much data and you're like, oh, it's too dangerous to be like put into a central area. I don't know. I remember it was just interesting that they were kind of like, don't go vote for this measure because our data that we're collecting on you is too dangerous. I mean, the valid point might be that there's any third-party person who can get a hold of the data and resell it. But I feel like overall it's a net positive. So those are it. Question one, share data about, automakers. And then question two, ranked choice voting, which our governor literally today or yesterday said no. He basically put out a statement saying, I encourage Massachusetts voters to vote against this, because he said when turnout is needed more than ever, this is going to be too confusing. And I don't know. I mean, I think so. The Secretary of State, who literally is appointed, right, by the governor, I mean, he was basically, I guess, saying that ranked choice voting is fine, and that there would basically be an educational campaign that goes along with it, because it's not until 2022 that ranked choice voting would be implemented. And it's only on the state ballots. It's not even for all, like, it's not for school boards. I don't think it's not for certain seats, but it's for a lot of them. So there's 2 years to have an information campaign. You get to see it in action in the primaries. And then I'm sure that by the time 2022 is around, really, people know what's going on. And that's like, that'll be the second state, I think, to have it for the whole state, because Maine has it right now. And they're actually going to be able to, like, kind of basically, I mean, mostly that's more for the primary, but like the general election, of course, you're going to have multiple people on some of those ballots too. So Maine will get to use it. So that's out of 50. So even though even Massachusetts is not going to be the federal level, that ranked choice voting, it's not going to be for the presidential race, but you get to still have it for state races, and it's kind of going to push the needle for other states. So
yes,
it's kind of cool to be in Massachusetts at this time. I've only been here for like a year and 9 months, but I think this is like a good place to be for a lot of reasons. And the political scene is actually kind of interesting now. So, boom.
And rant.
Yeah, and rant. Yeah, I guess there was a bit of a rant there. Really, people out here trying to fearmonger. But anyway,
you're good. But no, those are really valid key points. And the one thing that came to mind when you was talking about how the automakers were putting up these fear ads, I think that will cause more people to actually looking at purchase a firearm. And if you guys missed that video, we have the Second Amendment on our YouTube channel. I suggest you guys go watch that and educate yourself, due to the fact if you live in Massachusetts, but if you live in anywhere really, but if you live in Massachusetts and you're voting to have your rights, your data rights kind of like out in the open, that will be a good indicator to kind of go ahead and protect yourself, due to the fact that even if it goes through and even if said perpetrator was to walk up on you, at least you can protect yourself until help comes, at the very least. So you're not just going to be sitting there as like a damsel in distress. No, get you a little 9mm or 38, 380, 22, whatever you can. If you big bag and bold, get you a 45 and protect yourself until help comes, and be like, nah, you ain't taking my car. You ain't gonna do this nasty stuff to me. You gonna get shot in your leg. And if I miss your leg, it's probably because you're already dead. So throwing that out there, but still educate yourself. Educate yourself. But listen, before we go anywhere further, I did pull up the ballot for the state of Michigan. And for anybody who lives in whatever state, I'm just going to show you what it's going to look like. So at least that way, share, boom, boom. Okay. Bam. So this is for the state of Michigan, Secretary of State, and it's open on the web. So there's no excuse. I'm cutting out all excuses for anybody that says, well, I don't know. Nah, I'm taking away all your excuses of why you did not vote. There's no reason why you should not to. Anyways, the view ballot by county, jurisdiction, and precinct. So fill this all in. St. Joseph's, Three Rivers, Precinct 1. View the ballot. So yes, you can view what is on the ballot. You can. If you're living in the state of Michigan, and if you're living in St. Joseph County, this is what our ballot looks like. And so here you are. You got your presidential election. You got your
ballot green like that.
Not necessarily. Actually, yes, it is.
That's so cool.
It's just this stuff over here. No.
No.
We don't have the dollar signs. No. But again, it gives you a heads up of what's on the ballot. And so you got your U.S. Senators race over here. This guy, John James, is a joke. I got.
I think I run against Gary Peters.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to mention him. Then, of course, Fred Upton. Again, not going to mention him. And, of course, you got our legislative for the state, 59th district, my girl, Amy East, Steve Carr, whatever. And then you got your state board stuff. So this is a lot of stuff that's crucial, that's key. So your state board of education, you got your nominees here. You got the region of University of Michigan. So the big house, if you want things to stay the way how they are, if you want to get a good push, these are your candidates here. And especially if you're Democratic, these are your two candidates here. Mark Bernstein, Shauna Ryder-Diggs, but especially him, Mark Bernstein. If anybody's from Michigan who knows anything about the Bernstein family, they have a law firm, a law office that's been around since I was a kid. That's how long the Bernstein family has been around. So they're local. They're pretty much here to support us and whatever. Moving back up to the top to the next section, got your trustee of Michigan State. We all know that the real Michigan team is maize and blue, but that's a different story. But again, here's your candidates for here. Got your governor of Wayne State. Again, you got your two here. Now, these are the things that I wanted to bring up the most, because a lot of places, I know for Elle and Toby, it may look a little different for you guys, but these are those stuff that I was talking about that goes unopposed, that ought to be ran for. So for the prosecuting attorney, we only have one person running. For the sheriff, one person. For the clerk and register of deeds, one person. Treasurer, one person. Drain commissioner, surveyor. You only got one person. And these are often filled by Republicans because nobody runs for them. Nobody runs for them.
And this is for the county. It's not even for.
This is for the county. So again, my county, it covers about I almost want to say almost 9 different cities.
Okay.
Almost 9 different cities. And so again, when I look at this and I see no Democrats, that lets me know that the county itself is highly Republican. But for anybody that's a Democrat, it's like, I want justice reform to change. I want law enforcement to change. Run for these seats here, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, run for those two and give these Republicans a run for their money. And even if you don't win, but because of the fact that you're on there, now you pose a threat to them the next time you run. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then of course you got your county commissioner. You got your county commissioner's office that we could run for. Nonpartisan, the Justice of Supreme Court. This is the one that is crucial here, especially these 2 ladies. I think this one here, this lady here, she's actually from my city that I grew up in Grand Rapids. She's from Grand Rapids, so she's from the area. And again, vote for her. Over here on the other side, your judge of appeals. I know that Roberto, he talks about this a lot. Again, these are the ones that you want to look at here. And anything dealing with the court system in your state, look at these. Educate yourself on these. And then you got your community college. A lot of your community colleges, they're going to have a board of trustees and whatnot. So again, vote for those. Here's another section too as well, where if you want to win and you want to run, your commissioner races all here. You can run. You can do it. And then of course your local school board. This is another key. And a lot of these people you want to vote for because of the fact that they're going to help push the needle for your school district that you live in. Like this person here, I know her very well. So of course I voted for her. But this guy here, I just met him and we had a conversation. I voted for him anyways. But he was the guy who's like, listen, the programs that are being taught at the school level for the kids that are doing at-home learning, he understands that the program that we're using, it sucks. It sucks. A lot of the teachers say it sucks. A lot of the school administrators, they don't like the program because in all actuality, it's setting up the students to fail. Like seriously, it sets them up to fail. And so he says that I want to get in there so I can change that, get rid of that, and get something that's going to help these kids, not only just to pass them, but to help them retain that knowledge that they need so they can go to the next grade and basically build up and prepare themselves for the 21st century and what the issues and the problems that are facing here. It makes no sense that our schools are farther behind than most of our corporations. It makes no sense for our schools to not have the funding to be able to compete with a lot of the other area schools for education, for equipment, for the building itself. The buildings probably need to be updated and renovated to meet the needs of what's going on. So he was like, that's the reason why I'm running. Like, dude, you ain't got to say nothing else. You already earned my vote. Just to put it point blank, you've already earned my vote because this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm facing. And if you could get in there and change that, please do. Please. That's all I'm asking. Please do. Let my kids have a chance. That's it. Let my kids have a chance. Let my neighbors' kids have a chance. And so those conversations, that's what helps put people in a position of they want to help. And now, since you know the person by name and face, you can hold them accountable. So when they decide to run next, you're like, hold up, no, you said that you was going to do your job, you slipped and you dropped the ball. Nah, get somebody else in there to do it. Again, you have no, I'm taking away all excuses from between now and next week. Y'all have no excuse why you didn't go vote. You got none. You got none. You got resources at your disposal to use to look up what's on your ballot. And even if you don't live in my county, there's other counties in Michigan, in Massachusetts, in Florida that you could do the same thing and see what's on your ballot, so you already know ahead of time. And again, if it wasn't such a big deal, they wouldn't have put it on the state website in itself. Period. So again, no excuse. You have none, zero. So if the election don't go your way because you didn't vote, you have no right to complain. You have none. I'm ending my rant.
Yeah, this is a very rant heavy episode, but it feels pretty good though. Like it doesn't feel like, you know, it's important, but it's not like a super heavy, like we just talked about someone dying or something. So I mean, like it's important, but it's like it's all in good fun. It's all in good spirits. And a lot of why, because this people of course are affected a lot by the national election and they vote a certain way, but you can also inspire people from the ground up to vote for local elections. And I mean, obviously that's what we were trying to do with the primary too. Like you kind of get a whole breed of candidates who have been inspired from Yang's run and being able to focus on certain ideas, right? Like I don't necessarily advocate single issue voting, but having a lot of issues, whether it's the data privacy, which California actually, Prop 24, I think, whatever it is, that will basically let you start to own your own data. Do that ish. That is going to be a good one. And that'll start off a wave around the country for people. I actually just signed up like last month or early this month, maybe. But so I was pretty late to the game myself with data dividend DP, whatever the data dividend project.
Yeah, man, dude, you late to the game, homie.
I know. This happened like earlier in the pandemic when I'm pretty sure things were revealed. I told myself I was going to sign up, and then it didn't sign until like September. So my life, you know, I'm still in the process of getting it together, as we can tell. But
we love you.
Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to get it together.
But I've been hip to, I mean, Humanity Forward, as soon as that was launched, I've been like, you know, reoccurring donations and I'm getting stuff. So I've been active in some things. It's just that data dividend thing somehow just I just didn't remember to really activate that. But the point is, that's another one that's on the ballot, and you get wider support when you kind of get things on ballot propositions, when you can sort of decouple certain things from the parties. Hopefully, like ranked choice voting would be a great reform, just to be a good reform. And you have like legalization of marijuana. That one I haven't heard much about, and I don't even know if that's on the ballot really in any states this year. But that's another one. And there's so many issues that if like there's more, you know, education on and people advocate more, like if, you know, the war on drugs, ending that, and drug decriminalization is a big thing, or, you know, term limits. I mean, there's so many things that have now started to become more mainstream, and it's good. Even like some there's one candidate who I found very interesting, even though I'm pretty sure her chance of winning is like 1% or less. But, you know, we all do what we can do. A woman named Kim Klacik is running in Baltimore. I know y'all remember probably seeing that viral ad where a Black woman's walking through the streets of Baltimore saying, like, look at what basically the Democrat leadership for 40 years has done. And of course, there are people who have very, like, you know, a lot of issues with that kind of messaging, like, you know, what's your solution? Is the issue really that simple to be Democratic leadership has destroyed these cities? That is a topic for definitely a different stream. But it was interesting seeing her campaign because she did talk about term limits. She did talk, I don't know how much she talked about money and politics, but she talked about term limits, and she did talk about some of these ideas, like what you said, Ronald, having Republicans who are fighting for certain things that progressives also care about. And it's like, okay, there's an awakening that's happening on both sides, which is exactly what needs to happen. And there were some candidates who weren't formally endorsed by like Humanity Forward or Andrew Yang, but like one guy was running for Senate in Montana against Steve Daines, who's the incumbent, who now is being run against by the governor, Steve Bullock. But Daniel Larson, I think was the guy's name. He basically was running on almost all of Yang's policies, but he was kind of centering it around a Republican approach. But so he was much more moderate, and he kind of was saying that we need to really come together and solve issues that are going to be accelerating, not just technology, but like during the pandemic, of course, you had just other things that needed to be talked about. And it's like this stuff is bipartisan, nonpartisan. So I think in 2022, you're going to see a lot more of these issues. And you're going to see kind of like certain things being talked about in ways that aren't so partisan, which is good, because at some point, like ranked choice voting and democracy reform should not be a democratic thing. Like there should be something that everyone cares about. And so when you focus on some of these issues, you get wider support and you have a better chance of winning in the general election, which is, I guess, kind of my end rant, or almost end rant. It's, you know, kind of a hint. Hopefully next cycle, we can get some people-powered movement candidates back in the mix, and people kind of, you know, take a little more, people basically wake up and see what's needed more, and there'll be more support, and you'll win in a landslide in the general idea. And beyond the partisanship, you just have things that will, you know, help fix America and make things better. So
yes,
it'll be exciting, but we have to get through the next week first. So
yes, agreed. Elle, you want to jump on this rant wagon? Are you good?
No, not really. It's just, you know, it's just kind of sad that the next time you'll see us, we'll have a new president-elect.
I don't know if that's to be a good or bad thing. It's like,
it's just that's it's just true. Like,
one chapter is closed.
Oh man, yeah, we are not ready for that smoke. We ain't ready for that.
Like, I've just been all the emotions. Like, you know, just to think that, like, holy shit, like, oh my god.
Yes. Oh man. And Toby, I want to say thank you, because you just reminded me that there's the amendments to the state constitution that's also on the ballots. And so again, you already have a preconceived notion of what's going to be on there. And I just looked at the one for Michigan, and the two that they have is, the one is for allowing money from oil and gas mining on state-owned lands to continue to be collected in state funds for land protection, creation, and maintenance of parks, nature areas, public recreation facilities, and describe how money in those state funds can be spent. That's one. But the biggest one to come across is there's a proposal for the Constitution to require a search warrant in order to assess a person's electronic data or electronic communications. That one is huge, because now the state is understanding that a person's data and their electronic data, that's still their property. And just like anything else, you ought to get a search warrant. And I wouldn't be surprised if by 2022, 2024, the state of Michigan is going to have something dealing with data as a right and as a privacy. And if people are going to collect our data, they should disclose how are they going to use it and who are they sharing that information with. And so that way, that'll kickstart that, hey, I won't, if you're going to use my data, you gotta pay me for it. And I want my data check either direct deposited to my account or a check sent in the mail. I prefer direct deposit because I get to spend it faster. Check in the mail, I don't know. It might be a little iffy, because banks tend to do like a little hold. So hit that direct deposit so I can go ahead and do what I got to do. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see that happening. So, Toby, thank you for reminding me to look at those proposals because those are key. Oh, those are key.
All according to plan.
Yes. So as we prepare to wrap this show up, does anybody have any final thoughts, last little tidbits before we go so our viewers can kind of rest their heads and be like, okay, they said we got to go vote. They said I got to go vote. Vote. I might as well go vote. Might as well do some research. I got no excuse.
Yeah, no, definitely do.
Don't procrastinate.
Yeah, definitely do your research. Take some time out of your busy schedules to do this because it's very important. You know, like how you have to, you just got to make time. Whether you have to stay up late or wake up early, we've all had to do it at least once. A few times in our lives to just make time. Especially when we really don't want to, because nobody does. No one's excited to do this, but we have to do this because it's, for the greater good.
That part.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you had anything else to add to that. Were you done? No, I didn't mean it like that. I just didn't mean to cut off if you were.
Like I had something just random to say that. So Ronald, your gaming chair kind of, I don't know why, but it reminds me of Dracula with the black and the red and how it kind of comes out like that.
Yeah. I saw that at Walmart. Not Walmart. I saw that at Sam's Club. I'm like, ooh, I want it, and I had the money for it, and I didn't want to wait to buy one. And so the chair that I normally use, it was super uncomfortable. So when I saw this one, like, ooh, I gotta get it. And they're like, you can only buy it online. Like, let me see if they got it in the store. And oddly enough, at the store, they had 4 of these. So I'm like, I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told the lady, I was like, hey, do you have like a dolly or a truck that I could use? She was like, she kind of looked at me all weird, like, you want a dolly? Like, yeah, I need a dolly. She's like, okay. She gave it to me, and so I put it on. I had to move. There was like a gray one and a white one. I had to move that out the way. I got this one, put that on there, and I saw like 2 more red ones. Like, somebody could get that one later. Like, I was happy when I got it because it's so comfortable. And this is the one thing I wanted for things like this.
Okay.
So it was like, yes, money well spent. So yeah, thank you for the Dracula reference. I like it. Oh man, it reminds me of Vampire in Brooklyn.
I've never seen that, but I hear it's like a cult classic almost.
Yes. Yes. Eddie Murphy played the stew out of a vampire. Yes. Oh yes. It's one of those films. If you can watch it outside of Halloween, yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Oh, but yeah, I say go watch that one. Watch that one. But I know for me, I'm going to end with if the candidate that you see on your ballot, if you don't like them, run for that seat. Run for it. You'll be surprised how many people you can actually pull along to be able to run. And sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot. And with the voting type situation, if you're worried about votes, you don't need a whole lot of votes. Especially if you're got a degree in criminal justice and you want to put your criminal justice degree to good use, run for attorney, run for sheriff, where you can actually have a hand in what to say. Not only that, but commissioners, run for a commissioner seat. Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised. If you have a business degree or if you have an accounting degree, run for treasurer. You'll be surprised how many votes you need just to take that seat. Heck, even if you want to decide, well, I want to be a mayor, you can run for mayor. Go for it. These seats are open to the public. And if you want to do the public some good, you run for those seats. If you want to do your community some good, run for those seats. And so, again, I'm taking away all excuses. I'm taking away all excuses for the next 4 years. You got none. You got none. So after this election cycle, if you think that your representative is crummy and they did a piss poor job, you run for a seat. Start at grassroots. There you go. That way you're not worried about, being caught in the crossfires of the political attacks of, oh, he's taking money or she's taking money from corporations. Like, no, I got grassroots. Bite me. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. So that is all until next week. Oh, next week, we will not be streaming at our normal time. Why? It's election. Boy, oh boy, how election day falls on a Tuesday. That bites. But we will be streaming that day after. So that Wednesday we will be streaming. And we got a special topic for you guys on that Wednesday. So please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. We're on Periscope. We're on Twitch. Again, subscribe to all three and just stay tuned. And we thank you guys. We love you guys for taking this time with us. Toby, you got something to say?
Yeah, so I was going to say before, briefly, it was about the gun registration too. I mean, it's a little out of place, but I do remember hearing on the radio like yesterday or recently about Michigan for like your state has gone like with the people trying to apply for licenses has been out the roof. And then my state, which is one of the stricter in the country, I'm pretty sure, with gun control, even Massachusetts has been like people haven't been playing games. And I haven't looked into the process, but I think I will before this year ends, maybe even before the holidays come around. So
Yep, doing that too. I'm going to buy me another one. I got to, because depending on how this election goes out,
I may have to
protect your peoples.
Elle, you might have to buy one. You might have to buy one too.
Yeah, with being in the purple health, it's like I don't know.
Oh man.
Peace be still and load your still. And that's all I got to say.
Hey, mine stays loaded. It stays ready. Got one in the chamber. I should say that. But anyways, coming up with my friend door, you gonna feel that. So anyways, you guys, this is McCoy. We are signing off until next week, Wednesday. Next week, Wednesday, we'll see you guys. Without further ado, peace.
Vote. Peace.
Nice.